There are many roads in downtown area were closed as investigators worked through the crime scene. Those roads have since been opened. I'll say this, minutes after the incident occurred, I responded to the scene, and what I saw out of chaos and tragedy was heroes. First responders and the community coming together and working together on triaging victims, the fire department working in partnership with the fire department, getting these victims to the hospital. Fire department transported multiple victims. Chief Howard will talk about that. Officers picked up victims and put them in a squad and rushed them to the hospital, and citizens also picked up victims and rushed them to the hospital. There's also off-duty law enforcement, fire, and EMS personnel that were attending this event who immediately got involved and took part in saving lives. I want to thank our community partners. I want to dispel some rumors. There's no pursuit that led up to this incident. This is not a terrorist event. I want to thank our first responder partners. It is a long list, and I apologize, we apologize if I forgot anyone. Waukesha Fire Department. No words can express. Response team, which we call a SMART, responded, which it includes a dozen local law enforcement agencies, FBI, ATF, the state Division of Criminal Investigations, School District of Waukesha, the Milwaukee Police Department Fusion Center, the Wisconsin State Crime Lab, Wisconsin State Patrol. After this press conference, we'll provide a link on our website for any questions regarding witness information. If there's any additional video that a citizen might have, they can look at this link, or any family members or individuals that need to recover property. The Waukesha Police Smart website is the only source for information. Do not release information from any other source as it has not been vetted and could lead to false information. Thank you.
Chief Howard.
Thank you, Dan. Before I get started, on behalf of the men and women of the Waukesha Fire Department, I'd like to say our prayers go out to the families in the whole community that was affected by yesterday's tragedy. The City of Waukesha Fire Department responded to a mass casualty incident yesterday afternoon. All 26 on-duty personnel responded to the incident from 5 stations. Our closest downtown station was within sight of the parade route. Our units started to spontaneously respond based on radio traffic and dispatch information. We immediately activated our mass casualty protocol and utilized the MABUS, which is our mutual aid system, box alarm system, to the second level to provide us with additional resources to treat the victims. We received resources from 12 area fire departments. We were also aided greatly by off-duty firefighters and EMS personnel, medical personnel, and just civilian bystanders. They greatly assisted us with our initial treatment and triage of patients. Patients were transported to 6 area hospitals with fire department EMS transporting 22 patients. Law enforcement personnel, bystanders also transported additional personnel or additional victims to the hospital. At this time, we believe that 48 people were treated at local hospitals, although this number might increase based on information being gathered. Like Chief Thompson, I also had an opportunity, did respond to the incident. I got there just a little bit after the chief did, and based on my observations, very, very overwhelmed by the response of the community to this tragedy. People banded together to do the best they could to deal with this incident. Last night, going out and visiting the fire stations and the people that responded, overwhelmingly, our personnel expressed their sincere thanks for everyone who stepped up and assisted with the treatment of the citizens that were injured. Again, our hearts go out to the families and the victims of this senseless tragedy, and we appreciate all the assistance and support that's been offered to the City of Waukesha Fire Department.
Mayor Sean Riley.
Thank you. Last night we experienced a senseless tragedy. Many of us were participants in the parade and witnessed these horrific actions. We are all trying to process what we experienced. Our police, firefighters, partners, and so many others sprang into action immediately last night to help the people that were injured. For those of you who do not live in Waukesha, you need to know that Waukesha is a community that helps their neighbors. Waukesha is a community that takes pride in its identity and has a wonderful spirit. Waukesha looks after each other. Waukesha enjoys its celebrations, and the entire community joins in those celebrations. We are a close community. Waukesha is a community where many of its residents have lived for generations. Waukesha is also the type of community where new residents tell their friends to move here because it is so special. Waukesha has held what can be described as a Norman Rockwell type of Christmas parade for almost 6 decades. Last night, our wonderful Waukesha parade became the scene of a horrific tragedy. Last night, that parade became a nightmare. Last night, many were severely injured. Last night, lives were lost during the middle of what should have been a celebration. Last night, many were severely injured, lost their lives, and all who were there were traumatized. We experienced a horrific tragedy. We have so much healing that needs to occur. Waukesha, though, will not be defined by the horrific events of last night. We are a community that will come together. We will help those who experience the loss of a loved one or were injured. We will work together to bring healing. The healing needs to begin now. With that in mind, I share the following. Our prayer vigil will be held tonight at 5 p.m. at Cutler Park. The Waukesha Public Library, which is immediately adjacent to it, will be closing at 4 p.m. so the public can utilize that parking lot. The downtown South Street parking ramp, which is also immediately near it, will also be open for free parking. We know that members of the community want to help out and help the victims. The Waukesha County Community Foundation and United Way of Greater Milwaukee and Waukesha County have joined together to create the United for Waukesha Community Fund. This fund will support the needs of the families impacted, and there will be a website on our page that will tell you how to access that fund. Many people witnessed traumatic events last evening. If you need to talk to someone, you can call or text 800-985-5990 to be connected to a trained caring counselor, and they are available 24/7. That number will also be on our website. Please only call 911 for true emergencies. There will be a resource center set up at Carroll University for all victims from 2 to 6 p.m. Tuesday and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Wednesday. That information will be placed upon our website. The District Attorney Victim Assistance Program is also available to provide assistance, and an email for that service will be shared on social media. Our community needs to heal from physical injury and emotional trauma and what was taken from us by this senseless act. What we do today and the days ahead is what will define us as a city, and I know we will come together and help Waukesha heal. Thank you.
Dr. Jim Siebert.
Good afternoon, everyone.
I'm deeply saddened by yesterday's events and the tremendous impact they are having on both our school community and the larger Waukesha community. I want to begin by thanking our partners at the city and the police and fire departments for their leadership and partnership. We are focused on our kids, our staff, and our families, and making resources available to them. We stand with our community and are one of the resources for support as we navigate this tragic event. The School District of Waukesha is providing internal assistance as well as resources outside of the district to support kids, staff, and families. Should families need guidance on how to address trauma with your children, please do not hesitate to reach out to the student services staff at your child's school. We are actively dispatching additional support to our schools for staff and students. Your school administration and student services team can connect you with our crisis counseling staff in a very timely manner. School psychologists, social workers, school counselors, and community mental health providers are available and trained to support children and families in crisis today and into the future. I also want to thank our surrounding school districts, Waukesha County, our local healthcare partners, the Department of Public Instruction, and the Governor's Office for their support of the School District of Waukesha during this time. We also provided meals today from noon to 1 p.m. across the district, and we will do the same tomorrow at the following sites via their main entrance: Butler, Horning, and Les Paul Middle Schools, as well as North, South, and West High Schools.
We're listening to officials in Waukesha, Wisconsin, with the latest after that deadly crash, a vehicle plowing through a crowd that had gathered for a parade in that community yesterday. And you can hear in the voices of the officials, still the community deeply in shock, but officials there doing their best to rise to the moment, to tend to those who have suffered loss or injury. And what we have learned now, the dead, 5 people dead, they range in age from 52 to 81, 4 of them women. We also learned the number of injured now at 48. 2 of them are children listed in critical condition. The other major piece of news coming out of this news conference is the suspect, Mr. Darrell Brooks. And officials say he will be charged with counts of homicide there. We'll learn more about that a bit later. I want to go to Tom Yamas now, NBC senior national correspondent, co-anchor, or anchor of Top Story. He's in Waukesha right now for us. What have we learned, Tom, about the motive? We heard that there had been some kind of a domestic disturbance that Mr. Brooks was a part of. Do we know how he got from there onto this parade route?
You know, we still don't know that, Lester. That's the big unknown right now, and also the motivation to sort of floor it once he got on the parade route. This is Main Street. This is where the parade was taking place. And where we are right now, where we're coming to you live, this was one of the impact points. The extreme dance team, that youth dance troupe was out here. Somebody's racing by now. That youth dance troupe was right here when the car came rushing by. It was actually headed in this direction. An owner of a bakery over here said it was so chaotic. There were children just all over the street. Parents were screaming. And then when the officer opened fire, it led to a theory out here that there was an active shooter, which wasn't the case. But everyone was scrambling for help. People ran to the storefronts and sheltered in place while they tried to figure out what was going on. Other parents simply picked up their children and ran to the closest hospital. We did learn that 5 people have died so far, and as you mentioned, 2 children are in surgery right now, and the entire community is praying for them. But from what we understand about the suspect right now, the man you mentioned, Darrell Brooks, from what we understand, he had gotten an insufficiently low bond, so he had been incarcerated. He was able to bond out on what some are calling, especially the district attorney here in Milwaukee, an insufficient bond. He was able to get out, so that might have been part of the motive in why he was running, because he had that domestic violence incident. He had a prior one before that. That was one of the reasons why he was locked up. Interestingly enough, he had used his car as a weapon before. He had run over a woman he shares a child with at a gas station. So this man, from his history, his criminal history, was incredibly violent, but now he is behind bars and more charges are on the way, Lester. All
right, Tom, thank you. Let me bring in retired Seattle Police Chief and NBC News law enforcement analyst Carmen Best. Carmen, thank you for being with us. As we heard in Tom's report, and I apologize, we're apparently going to Cedric Alexander, who's a former director of public safety in DeKalb County. Apologize for that, but let me put the same question to you. We understand that an officer did discharge their weapon in an effort to stop this car car. How difficult is that in an environment where you have so many people around?
Well, certainly anytime that you fire a weapon, you always have to be aware of your backdrop. In this particular case where you had a speeding vehicle that was clearly causing death and mayhem in front of witnesses that everyone could see. And the officer clearly must have felt he had an opportunity to fire rounds without any innocent persons being in his line of fire. But I can only imagine, too, that that firing had to stop immediately, merely because that was still a moving vehicle and you still had people there on the scene. So usually your training will assess that you don't shoot at moving vehicles. But in the case, in an extreme case such as this is entirely different, and the justification of it based on what we know was well within his right. And he tried to do everything that he could to stop that vehicle from hurting and injuring others.
Yeah, the police chief there noting that the officer did fire, then stopped firing because of concern for the surroundings and the chaotic movements around him. But clearly a lot of questions that will continue to be asked about the police response and what is known about this suspect and his time in the criminal justice system that led up to last night's tragic event. That concludes our coverage. We'll have much more tonight on NBC Nightly News. For now, I'm Lester Holt, NBC News, New York. Good day, everyone.